Good evening. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, we have a few announcements this evening. Farmers Market is Saturday, September 7th from 9 to 12. Opening day for soccer is Saturday, September 14th. Go to the website for further information. Autumn Fest will be held on Saturday, October 5th from 11 to 4. And the rain date is Sunday, October 6th from 11 to 4. We also received correspondence from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation encouraging interested parties to attend regional public hearings on the state's 2021 through 2030 transportation projects that are being planned, and the ones that will be held in our local area is in Peterborough on September 18th at 6 o'clock. There's one in Milford on Thursday, September 26th at 6 o'clock p.m. One in Keene on Tuesday, October 15th, also at 6 o'clock. So anyone that's interested should attend. This evening's agenda, we've got some old and new business to go through. At 6:30, we'll be meeting with the Finance Advisory Committee for the 2020 budgeting process. 7 o'clock, we have the Board of Assessors, and at 7:30, we have a non-public session. So, moving along, we've received pricing from 3 companies for fuel oil for the 2019-2020 season. Fraticelli oil was at $249.9. Ceradelli Fuel Company is at $244.9. And Hafner's is at $264.9.
Motion to go with Ceradelli.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion or questions.
Sure.
One, how much do we use during the course of a year on average, and is this higher or lower than last year? If you happen to remember.
Don't remember a thing.
I don't remember what mine was.
I remember complaining, but that's about all I remember.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll go with that. I can remember that.
It's kind of like home. You need oil and you order it.
Yeah. Just information-wise.
Yeah.
That's not that important.
Oh, now you tell me that. Well, I'm sorry. I am halfway through the search.
You put it in the record. You gotta finish it.
I'll watch my questions in the future.
Is it the old adage, careful what you ask for?
Yeah.
We budgeted $2.60 for oil. Am I looking at the right one? Let's see. Strike that. That was in 17. The one thing I would say is we can put into the notes and let Mark know is we also need the pricing for propane. I don't have that answer for you, Bert.
Okay.
At least I don't.
Well, maybe we could ask Mark to provide us that information as well.
I don't know that he would have how much oil that we've used. We'd probably have to get that through Roger.
Yeah.
And what did we budget?
See, before the age of computers, the right answer was, I don't know, but I'll get back to you.
Perfect. I'm willing to accept that at this point.
Watch this one. I don't know, but I'll bet you can go look it up.
I bet you I can. There we go.
There's a new
Okay.
twist to the
That's
answer.
better than the computer. I'm just trying to see what we.
Were there any complaints last year about the heat? Then you
Not
probably-
that we're aware of.
Then you probably used too much.
Is our,
It's a good thing you're not using wood, because finding cordwood this year has been awfully hard.
Hmm.
Anybody else have that problem, or?
Well, did you see what just happened?
Hmm?
The, what is that, the emerald horn beetle is now prevalent in New Ipswich.
Oh, no kidding.
And so there's no cordwood to be coming in or out of this area.
No kidding.
And so it's put a damper on a lot in the
I know,
New Hampshire
well,
area.
out of the blue, because I usually order it this time of year, not a problem.
Just came out a couple weeks ago
Wow.
from the environmental protection. They were basically putting out a warning.
I can understand not exporting it.
Exported, but there's others in the area. So this whole little area,
Yeah,
there's quite a few that they
Last I
found.
checked, people don't know anything about a board.
Yeah, exactly. So they just don't want it moving around
Yeah,
and
no,
stuff.
okay,
so-
I didn't realize it moved up here.
Yeah.
Damn. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course it happens right before everyone starts stocking up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, best I could find was 3 seasons and 2 green. That's all I could get. Gotta hope it's green turn season before they March.
I don't know why I'm not finding a line item for that fuel.
Is that in GGB?
I got GGB for building, lawn care, groundskeeping, maintenance, security, rental building, communications, pool and park, electricity, Old Town Hall, building 2 electric, and GGB propane.
Is it just in, would be, what's it? BOS budget for the town hall? Or for the town offices?
Let's see, it should be right above here. I hope we have money for it.
Heat, BOS heat, 624. I think it's our 824.
I can
Second
make a
from the
nomination
bottom.
as a
Yeah.
finance advisory committee member. We
Let's
probably have
see.
a budget for it.
Or at least warm clothes.
$2,500.
Well, hopefully our tenure on this is over before it gets too cold.
So I'm gonna say it's probably somewhere around 1,000 gallons if we have 2,500 budgeted.
So, yeah, all right. So Mr. Chairman, would you remove the question then?
It's less than I use at home.
I want that.
Okay, I'll close that one out. Go back to the main.
Do some of the buildings have waste oil recyclers?
The
Highway department?
highway department does, and we had one at the transfer station, but that building's closed,
Yeah.
so.
So
Save some.
move that for a vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you notify them, because that has a 7-day window on it?
Did you write a note for yourself so you know what the answer is next year?
I do.
Perfect.
$2.45 a gallon. Yeah, numbers like that stick in my mind.
This will do a non-public. We have received a second quote for the replacement of the traffic signal that got damaged at the fire station. Second quote is less than
the price.
$1,000
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
I'm just not 100% sure if we're comparing the same scope, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the big question was whether or not it was going, that light was going to be elevated somewhat, so it would not be hit again. I mean, wasn't that the problem with it?
I thought there was some oversized vehicle or something
Yeah, yeah,
that hit it, so no matter if they're illegal,
well, I mean,
Yeah, they drove down the middle of the road too with their. It was either a well or it was either a well drilling truck or a log truck. But they were down the middle of the lane too. They weren't in, because the light hangs over the middle, and they weren't. They were in the middle as well.
well, we can ask, because I'm trying to think of what's supporting that light now. Is there a cable that,
yeah.
Yeah, it just runs across,
Yeah, but I
spans
mean,
the whole road.
I mean, a typical truck is limited to
13 feet?
13 and a half feet. That's
I
what's.
think it's 13, isn't it?
13 and a half.
Yeah.
Bridges are built at 14. So, I mean, maybe we can just ask Tim to be on the lookout for over the high vehicles running down the road.
And I'm thinking to avoid, like, what I think you were alluding to originally, is to avoid having to pay another $3,000 bill if it's a $500 cost to raise the cable.
Well, in your memory, has this happened before?
No,
Okay, so we pay it every 10 years.
but you asked about my memory.
Well, we're checking it. We have to make these spot checks on it.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I guess my
don't
own,
ever recall.
my only question is, just making sure that they have that ability to, whether either of those have the ability to change the color on that light or what, from yellow to red, or whether we're worried about it, because the current one did.
And that's what I'm thinking they're replacing. They're replacing it
In kind.
in kind.
Like in kind,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think your point, Bert, of even if we could raise it beyond what the limitations, I don't know if there's a certain height that we need to meet the
Yeah.
traffic engineers.
Right, if it's, whether it's too high and they say, no,
Yeah.
people can't, or
Yeah.
don't see it,
Yeah.
so.
Are we paying for it?
Yes,
Why didn't the insurance of the truck that hit it?
because
Because
nobody knows
they
who
hit
the
and
truck
run.
was.
That makes it
We'll
probably.
do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the state highway, correct?
So can I recommend you put a camera in the light?
So they take the camera and the film footage with them? Could you ask the state to put out a sign, just an overhead line with a height, like they do on the highways? Like bridge signs that say 13.8.
And you think that would have helped?
I don't think so.
At
You know,
The guy ran off, he probably wasn't doing
At-
anything.
He
Go
probably
back to
didn't
that
realize he
camera
hit it, they
idea.
said,
At
the
4 in
person
the
who-
morning, you wouldn't even see it.
yeah, the person who picked it up said the guy hit it and just, it's like, he didn't even notice it.
Stop.
No, like I said, he was riding, like I said, to hit it, he was going down the middle of the road, so he obviously wasn't paying attention.
And he didn't see the vehicle? Or give it-
Not enough to identify anything, though.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Just enough to see that it got hit, and he picked up the light and leaned it against the fire department for us, so someone else didn't run it over.
Yeah.
So,
Do we have insurance for that kind of thing?
it is, but for a $2,900 bill, by the time you report it to the insurance and our premiums go up, sometimes it's,
What's our deductible? I'm just curious.
I'd have to pull out the policy.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. And I do not have that here.
That was not a formal request.
We're not asking questions today.
Who was that company? Was this East Coast? New England Signal. You guys good with going New England
Yes.
signal
Yeah.
system?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because really, based on the two quotes, it seems to be the same thing. They're both equally as vague.
Expensive light fixture, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, anything you'd like to share with us, other than I'd like to thank you if you had any input in getting Smithville Road reconstructed?
Oh, that's what, yeah, the guy I talked to, yeah, over in Swansea. No, they actually done a nice job. The whole area is pretty nice now.
Yeah, yeah.
They've gone kind of crazy with paving.
Yeah, down Main
Um,
Street the whole way, it's nice.
Actually, I was gonna ask you if you received my email.
I did.
I just,
I was gonna bring it up, but I'll let you.
yeah, I just saw it as a great opportunity for us to kind of do that improvement, but.
Why don't you,
So what it is I don't know if you've been down to Ashby on their telephone poles in the middle of town. They have those hometown heroes.
Yep.
They have them all over Mass, and they're starting to get them. I think Concord now has them, and a few other towns in New Hampshire. The gentleman's picking up steam, getting them up in New Hampshire, and the cost I think was $250 for the initial cost for the banner. And the way I look at it is a family could sponsor their veteran or family member, whoever they want, and pay for those, and it comes with 3 years of maintenance with it. And then at that point, we can decide what we want to do with them, or give them back to the families, or they can re-up the contract and keep up with them. But it's a very inexpensive way for the town to get some improvements and basically have the town folk play for it. So I think we're a pretty patriotic town, and I think people would certainly go out of their way to do it. But it certainly looks nice. Ashby's a great example of that. I always drive slow and read them.
Yeah.
So, but he's got all the information now, and so it's a good
you
opportunity.
forwarded a link to the gentleman in Concord that spearheading it.
I think it's a good idea, especially, yeah, if it's getting families to sponsor something, I think it's the way to do it. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good
Don't run
idea,
that over.
but maintenance usually falls by the wayside on these things.
So you'd have to read into it. I'm pretty sure he takes care of setting them up, and I think he stores them for the winter time.
How long has he been doing this?
That you'd have to look into. But he's got all the information, contact info.
All right.
He does like to talk. I think I was on the phone for an hour and a half for 20 minutes of information. So, just forewarning you.
3 to 1 ratio.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything in our zoning ordinance that might prohibit it, like a sign ordinance?
Where would you do it?
These are the ones that get mounted on a telephone pole. I don't know if you've ever, I've seen them, but for other types of signage. Fitchburg has it where the high school is.
Yes.
And Bolton, town of Bolton, Mass has it for,
They have the hometown heroes. That was
yes,
just through there.
yep.
That was one of them, and Ashby has it.
You know, the rods that stick off the utility pole and there's a banner
Yep.
hanging. That's what those would look like.
Yeah.
I would see if we were able to get businesses or whatever to say, look, we'll do 10 poles, 20 poles, or families, but unless we had that commitment and
You'd have to
then,
meet a threshold.
yeah, and the other thing is, and I agree, having it for veterans is a good thing, but we also have now the Purple Heart banners on the
Yep.
poles, putting these on the poles, we have the American flags on the pole,
Run out of poles.
or space on that pole. So it's just, I think before I make a vote one way or another, I'd like to,
Why wouldn't you ask put it on the town website and see how many families would be willing to sign up to do it, just to get a feel for the
Yeah.
actual interest, and then take it from there. If there is a lot, then go for it. If not, then
yeah.
you can.
Yeah. I've noticed it slows down traffic, maybe get someone to say, hey, stop here, let me get out and walk. Just drawing people to town. And it's inexpensive for the
Yeah.
town.
Where did they put them in Concord? I think, I
Um,
don't remember seeing it on Main Street.
I can't remember, he is from Concord.
Okay,
Somewhere in that hour and a half conversation, it probably was told
Okay.
to me, and,
Is it like the ones that were in Ashby for the 200th anniversary?
so similar to those, yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yep.
do recall those.
Yeah, exactly, the ones of the 200th anniversary.
Yeah.
Now you'll see hometown heroes as well.
Yeah, and you get businesses to sponsor some of those.
And that's the thing, is, if a business has a couple of veterans working for them, maybe they'll sponsor it, so.
But I do think it's a good idea to look at the back end of it, which is as they deteriorate, that'll just add problem. You want to be able to say, okay, when it gets to that point.
I think he's a 3-year,
We need to take them down and give them to the family.
Exactly.
And be done with it.
and I think that's, if I recall, it was 3 years.
Yeah. that makes sense.
And he takes them down, I think, in the winter time and puts them back up in the spring.
Okay.
So they don't, have all the bad weather in the winter.
Are we like Massachusetts? Do we need a state cop around when they're putting things on signs?
I have no idea.
We use flagmen.
Yeah, good. Always bothered me to see a number of cops sitting in their cruisers when they're doing work. Just didn't make a lot of sense.
It's even worse than watching a movie.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I don't know what they're
what's the
doing.
point of you being here?
I'm not gonna speculate on what they were doing, but the safety value seemed minimal.
I'll forward you that link if I haven't done that already. Maybe we can see it. So what else is happening up at the state?
Big veto day is coming up. I think we're up to 54 on the docket to veto, so, including the horrendous budgets. So,
Which ones might they be that would affect the town?
well, the budgets will affect everyone. I haven't seen how it'll affect the town, but I know it was massive tax increases. Small businesses, it eliminates all of the former small business tax cuts and then increases them on the backside. Basically, all the money we've generated from tax revenue due to tax cuts, just because we've drawn in more businesses, will get wiped out. So, it's not good. But he is, I think the record is 70 vetoes over 8 years. He's at 54 in 6 months. So, not a lot of good bills. That's what's going on with the
Context
state.
of us, aren't we affected only by the rate that they eventually establish?
Our highway block grant could be affected, our,
All of the money
rooms and meals tax.
so he had proposed a plan to, I guess there was a surplus of 180 million. He had proposed a plan to return to the municipalities to assist with any kind of funding for projects, special projects.
But do you have to apply for that?
Well, it got denied, so it didn't really matter. I didn't read too far into it. And they wanted to take all those funds and create long-term projects with the understanding that it is one-time funds. And everyone's scratching their head like, how do you propose to fund all of these long-term projects with one-time funding? Never got an answer, so.
What about the state kicking in their fair share of the retirement?
That I'd have to look more into.
I hope you will.
So, I know exactly what you're talking about, but it's just been chaos up there. It's,
Well, that's why you're there, isn't it?
what's that?
How many bills have been passed?
That's a good question. I don't know. There's some good ones that passed.
I was just curious.
You know, the big ones that are the budget, and the Second Amendment ones were vetoed. The net metering was vetoed, and that one I'm still, the explanations just, I still
It
can't
doesn't make
understand.
any
them.
sense on that one.
Yeah, but there, you know, some people have tried to explain it, and it makes sense until someone interjects and says something else. Well, that doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, so, there's a lot going on with it up there. But the budget's the big one, because everyone will feel that impact.
Will that budget include setting the rate for property tax?
I'd have to see, I know, the big one was the small business taxes and stuff,
Yeah.
and basically the New Hampshire Advantage is what they're calling it. Why people are flocking, I mean, I work in Boston, and I've seen our pharmaceuticals start moving into Manchester. Which, when you start getting a global pharmaceutical company wanting to move to your state, it's a good reason. And they're an innovative technology company, which is really cool. They're actually 3D printing lungs. They're branching off from the pharmaceutical division and developing a 3D printed lung, and then using, I think they take out fat cells to create the T cells and then create lung tissue. And then they graft the lung tissue over these 3D printed cells, or lung structures, and basically your body doesn't reject it at that point.
Because it's your own cell.
Exactly, yeah, it's your own body cells, and then they're also developing autonomous drone technology, so they build it in the workshop, put it in a drone, and the drone flies to the hospital. So, take out your credit card and swipe it, and get some new organs built.
Thought you were gonna say it flies there and puts it in.
Yeah.
I was gonna
The
say.
company I work for
Ah,
does those machines.
I'll
They're the
wait,
autonomous
yeah.
rescue machines. But, yeah, it's neat to see companies like that leaving Massachusetts to come here. I did have a quick question for
Sure.
the road plan. Who do we talk to discuss that? The apron on Collins Road it's a minefield. I got two, so if you're talking a 50-foot apron that goes up the small hill, you got two massive potholes, 5 to 6 feet wide, and they're gaining depth daily. Starting to rub some parts on the bottom of cars and stuff
In the pavement or in the gravel?
in the pavement. So,
I can talk to Peter about it.
yeah, it's just getting to a point.
They've been out shimming. I know they shimmed Mountain View,
Yeah, they put the
Beechwood.
coating on top of that, I saw.
Beechwood.
Who paid for
Smith.
123A?
That was all the state.
The state did?
Yep.
Yeah. I had a wonderful drive over here today. Entirely brand new paved roads the
Yep.
whole way.
I'm blanking. Where's Collins Road?
Perry Road. You go to the end of Perry Road and take a right,
Okay.
like long gravel road. That's one that we were talking about. That, we had laid it out in 15 to extend it from there back to Page Hill.
Okay.
Bos, Smithville, whatever that road is, I don't know, right at that intersection.
Is there any movement on that, or the
On what?
continuation of the improvement of the classified section?
Well, I remember when I was on the board back in 2007, no, 2008, the board did all the layout for it to upgrade it, but it never went any further after that. So, I think this board will look at it because as we've been rebuilding the roads and paving roads, at some point in time, that would be another through road that we'd have to look at.
Yep. Is there any, cause that one obviously would need work, big work, cause there's big boulders in there and stuff. What about so at the top of Collins, you have the private road to the right that connects to Gowan. That one's pretty much,
That's private.
so there's nothing you can do with that?
Nothing we're gonna do, nothing we wanna do.
Cause that would make much more sense.
Nope, that's a private road, posted. They want it that way, and
That's not,
that's fine.
yeah, cause we're getting more and more younger families up there, so.
Well, they know where they're moving.
Yeah, well, the thing with Collins Road that concerns a lot is the school bus. Right now, some of the people at the top, you're talking almost 3/4 to almost a mile to get to the bus stop one way. And in the wintertime.
What do you mean? Explain that.
The bus stop's all the way down on Perry Road.
Why doesn't the bus come down Collins Road?
They said it's unsafe.
Really?
Yep. And so it's safe for our kids, but it's unsafe.
Yeah,
for
there
the
should
bus.
be no justification for that, because that road is graded just as Boynton Hill and
Yep.
Courier Road and the other gravel roads in town.
They said it's unsafe.
Well, I think as a state rep, you better get down there and start talking to them.
Already on my list for the new superintendent, and we're gonna have a discussion on that. Because, yeah, I mean, if it's unsafe for a school bus, then why is it safe for my kids?
Yeah, and police and fire and ambulance and,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
So-
a dirt road.
Exactly, I mean,
yeah.
We got plenty of those.
Yeah, I forgot
I
about
can see
Hubbard
the
Pond. I missed
turn,
that.
like right now, it'd be tough with that turn, with the gravel failing, or the pavement failing and stuff. But they could figure out a way to make that turn. So it's sharper than 90 degrees. But I think people just don't wanna change things, so.
That was probably the hammer hitting the nail squarely.
I have a
All right.
hammer.
Welcome, Mark. Do you expect anyone else to be coming?
I don't even know who else is supposed to come.
Well, I've got a list here.
was just,
Mark Fortier, Jack Lowe, Jeff McCabe, and Nicole
You mean I get to sit in the comfortable chairs?
Sakazawa.
You're on the list.
This isn't a meeting, this is just to discuss the process.
Yeah.
But yeah, anybody's welcome to sit wherever you want.
Oh, yeah, these are much nicer.
We'll try to discourage the public.
Don't start
Tim,
putting nails in.
Did you see I responded to your Facebook message?
About a meeting place?
Yeah.
No, I haven't, did you do it recently?
Yeah, so we have the space. All we need to know is specifics as far as really day and time.
Oh, yeah, I did see it. Yeah, so we just, it's new.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure it all out. We just want to get something established so people feel like they have a voice. My biggest thing is to start bringing candidates here
Mhm.
because everyone is just like, Manchester, Keene, forget everyone in between.
Yeah.
So I just want people
Yeah.
to have more of a
Yeah, so
say.
if you can give us some specifics,
Yeah.
we can work something out.
Yeah, I'll work with the county rep and, go from there and
Okay,
find some stuff, but I can't imagine it's gonna be big in the beginning,
perfect.
so, but, Anything else from me on the state level you want? More money?
Yeah, you kinda hit the nail on the head.
Batting 1,000 on that one.
I'll go with more cooperation up there.
Anything, gentlemen?
Trying to figure out how to word it properly?
Yeah, and then I said I'd just keep quiet.
Probably not a bad choice.
No, nothing new,
Okay.
nothing new. But
So-
that retirement, anything that they've approved for funding that they should be funding.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. We just received a notice from DES that we're required now to test the landfill closure for that PFAS chemical that was found in Merrimack.
Why are we being tasked to do that?
And why are we having to pay for it?
Yeah.
I understand, what time did I say it was?
Did Merrimack pay for theirs?
Merrimack has public water.
Yeah,
It doesn't really matter, we're a town incorporated, and therefore should be treated equivalently.
yeah, I think it's Lebanon is,
Oh, that's the
So
one,
in the
Lebanon
state,
wants to file a lawsuit
they-
against it.
yes,
Yes,
yeah,
I
yeah,
know which one you're
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
That's the more stringent, water testing.
Yeah.
and that's what we're having to do.
Yeah, okay.
We just had to do it and the board voted, we'll do it to do the tests. But if something comes up, the state has to step in then to incur the cost of whatever it may be, or further testing or whatever it is. It's just, again, DES responded to Peter that, oh, no, it's not an unfunded mandate, it's just a change of our rules.
We had a lot of discussion on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, I think it was Lebanon and like 6 other municipalities have already filed suit.
Because it is unfunded because they
Yeah, you're
showed they,
basically saying, you're held accountable to this, but we're not touching it for money,
Right.
you know, you have to fix the problem.
Yeah.
and they showed what the increase in cost was of the testing. Just
Yep.
to add like 2 other tests more than doubled the cost of the testing.
Yep,
And there is, they just changed the level of the acceptability of that in the ground, water, or whatever it may be.
yep.
And my understanding is it's significantly more stringent than what the federal level is.
Yeah, and that's
So-
why I think Lebanon was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So,
Anyhow,
that's, yeah, I'll get you some answers on that. I'll ask around. We have a meeting on the 10th, and then our session's 18, 19. So I'll be up there quite a bit.
good,
So, and if there's
All
anything
right.
else, let me know.
very good.
Otherwise, I'll leave you be.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Have a good one.
Well, since we're 11 minutes past, we'll,
This is not a good start.
Joanne did say that Nicole,
Start got worse.
Gotta love technology.
I thought he was conferencing in somewhere.
You have a British Prime Minister.
That Nicole had told Joanne she didn't think she'd make it. Whereas there's only the 2 of you that are here. The selectmen had previously discussed, and so we said, well, let's see how the FAC wants to meet. We felt the way we had done it last year when it was even the budget committee would be advantageous to do it again together. Have the department heads come in, ask the questions, and, kick things around.
Tell him, don't I was there.
I think somebody had already told me that we were trying to figure out a way to make it more economical in time by having all the heads and doing it together with the select board.
That's what we did last year.
Yeah, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
What I'm unclear on is, I can't find any duties of the committee in the RSA's. The only mention of this type of committee is that you can have one. That's it.
And it,
The official advisory committee, and we know all of them.
right, well, that's what I refer to as the budget committee. This, I've always referred, and it's always been referred in town as the FAC, Financial Advisory Committee.
That's right.
And as advisors, that's why we're hoping that people come in with various backgrounds and skills and whatnot to look at things to say, hey, what about trying something this way? Or you could be more efficient possibly. And those are the things that we're looking for, and,
Mhm.
you know, give us the advice, you know.
I think that's the right approach.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we need a charter to define that kind of common sense advice. If we see something based on our experience, we should bring it up.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we don't have all the answers, and if
Right.
somebody else can
Right.
help us out.
But really, I mean, is on the years that I spent on it, I think somewhere I did have it. It's very similar to what your role was on the budget committee, except it is just advice.
Right.
There is no sticking rule, no budget restriction that you put on there by your but
We had,
you,
we had to literally submit the budget
Correct,
last year.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
but this you
And
just
agree to-
yeah you give recommendations and why you recommend something different than the board recommended.
Now, we can look at individual budgets for the various departments, and I think that's fine. But then there are some more, I'm gonna call overlay issues that I'd like to know whether or not you'd like us to involve ourselves in. I took it upon myself to take the tax rolls from last year out of our town report and figured out our delinquency rates and looked at some of the characters, the entities and people and where they stood relative to their outstanding owing. Because one of the things we have to recognize is we can be generous, we can defer things and help people in need. But when you look at $250,000 of unpaid taxes from 2 years ago, okay, so I even threw out last year and this year's, because obviously that's a function of time, that these have obviously aged. You know, what can we do to try to drive that revenue back in, either making those properties paying their taxes again in some useful way? Because otherwise that becomes a burden on the rest of us who are paying the taxes. And we really ought to be very careful about providing exemptions. I do believe that we should provide exemptions, but I don't know whether or not these candidates or these people that I've identified, when you have a $40,000 tax bill that hasn't been paid in 6 years, I don't know what the underlying reason for that is. And can we look at those and try to identify ways to drive that to a more productive revenue generator?
Let me try and give you then
You
a
don't have
not
to
so simple answer.
Okay.
No, you don't have that to say this is how we're gonna do it.
No, I don't mean to say it, but I
Right.
mean to investigate,
We,
evaluate.
just so you understand,
I do.
the board here does that continuously.
I'm sure you do.
Okay, we receive from the tax collector the lists
Yep.
that are there.
Yeah.
We have met with, I would say, most if not all of them. And somehow they are on a tax payment plan,
Okay.
or we go to deed. We try not to go to deed.
No,
But
and I
just
agree.
so you understand,
No,
this-
that's the right way to do it. But at some point, you have to say, wait, we can't subsidize as individual taxpayers or collectively those that aren't. I mean, I looked at it and I said, wow, I mean, there was, as I say, about $250,000, $300,000 from 2017 backwards that are still in arrears. The records don't show me if they're on a tax plan, so I have
Correct,
no way of
yep.
of understanding that. And you've got the top 10 are in the tens of thousands of dollars in arrears. And one of them is a business, of which I'm not sure I have any sympathy for. It's a business. Maybe I'm wrong to say that, but that's sort of my first impression. Is if you're a business, you either pay your taxes or you move on. And if they have property that we can deed and get the deed from and make it a profitable or producing property that's good. Nothing's a church. I thought churches were exempt, but I don't know the laws in New Hampshire, so churches, religious institutions aren't exempt from.
It depends
property
on,
tax?
it depends on whether it's still in use as a church, or if that property is being used as part of the church. So if that is a former church, then it's no longer
Okay,
qualifies.
it might have the name church on it, but it doesn't mean it's being used for
Or
religious
if it's
purposes.
a property of a church, that a church might be
Somebody willed it.
hypothetically
Okay.
that, or they use it as a
I mean,
housing.
that's what I'd like to help with,
Yeah,
is
if
not
the-
only
yeah.
figuring out how to spend the money, but also figuring out how to generate. that.
Yeah, if the
just one
church, yeah.
thing you should understand is when we talk about tax deeding, we're required to protect the individuals who owe that money.
Sure.
And we have been discussing most of those in a non-public session.
And I apologize if I've raised something.
No, no, no,
No,
no,
no.
no, no. We're
No, what
talking
you're
in
bringing up,
generalities.
like you said, the information you
Public-
have
public-
is public knowledge.
Yeah.
But we talk about it in non-public sessions to protect the individual's
As it should be.
privacy.
As it should be.
Yeah.
and
And
so
then-
forth. So
yeah.
we're talking in generalities here is fine, but specifics I don't think we can go
And I'll back
into.
away from any
Yeah.
further specifics
Yeah,
on that.
and we have to, also with tax deeding, it has to be so many years out before we can actually go to deed based on, if someone's 1 year behind, we
Yeah.
can't. we
No,
can't get
and
stuff like that.
that's why I said, look, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna look at 2018
Yeah.
or 20, I'm looking further back, because that's usually where you've got a problem.
Mhm.
But many people know it's a 3-year look back. And at that 3rd year, they'll come in and they'll pay that tax.
But the evidence doesn't show that. I mean.
It does.
It might be a number.
The evidence does show
Well,
it.
well, the problem is it doesn't show it in the numbers.
Right,
It might
right,
show
right.
it in the number of people, but it doesn't show it in the dollars. The dollars remain pretty stagnant,
It's because what, like you said, if it's a 3 year, so what happened is when we put it in the town report, say that's 16, 17, 18,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
In 19, we would go to deed on 16. They pay 16, but now they're 17, 18, 19 behind when the next report comes out. So those numbers stay very
Yeah,
similar because taxes in
They're
town
playing
Except they go up,
a little bit.
penalties and interest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you figure if you look at it and really in all the years that we've been here, our budget for the town doesn't change that much.
Right.
That amount they're paying to the town specifically really doesn't change drastically. So you're always going to see about that same amount because they're paying off year 3 and accruing year 1.
What is
Paying-
our flexibility in establishing a higher interest rate on
You
the
can't,
limit?
set by RSA.
By whom?
An RSA are the laws in New Hampshire.
Laws in
They're
the-
set by-
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
I apologize for not being.
No, you
I'm
don't,
not an
I should not expect you to be,
Well, I've been here 3 years, but I haven't learned that much yet.
yeah.
You should Google New Hampshire RSAs.
Oh,
It
it's,
will open your eyes.
Yeah.
what a read.
I came from the People's Republic of Massachusetts.
They're all,
Well, the RRSAs are their MGLs.
And I know those.
Open your eyes and put you to sleep.
It's interesting, though, that if we have abusers of that, the question is, what can you do?
Nothing.
And that just
Go
seems-
back to the
that's-
RSA.
Yeah.
And they are so protected because we just had in discussion last week. Let's just say we do go to a property that's been more than 3 years and we tax deed it, meaning the town takes it over
Right.
and you auction it off or sell it off or whatever. And Mark comes along and buys it. The original owner still has 3 additional years to buy that property back.
And, look,
Protecting-
and to some degree, for
Protecting
people
you.
who run into a problem and it's not their fault,
Yeah.
those things make sense. It doesn't make sense when people abuse that for their own
Yeah.
purposes. And I'm not suggesting anyone on this list.
And
is.
I'm not saying that there are a lot of people that do that. It's not. There are people that come in and like you say, they've had a hardship or
Sure.
divorced or whatever it may be, and what we've been trying to focus on is addressing it,
Yep.
not letting it continue.
Yep, yep. And that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not, Mr. Scrooge here, I'm not at all. I'm just trying to figure out if there's an opportunity there. I mean, so again, it comes back to, not only do we wanna look at how we spend the money, but where can we generate, how can we generate revenue for the town in some productive way? And I know I came here during the candidates night, and I think we had a discussion about town property and what are the opportunities. And those are the things I'd kind of like to also look at as part of the advisory committee and say, hey, look, if we see something, or you help us, educate us in terms of what we have and what we don't have, we might be able to think of something to leverage that in some productive way. Maybe not, but,
Yeah.
but sure would like to look at it.
Please ask questions, just,
Unfortunately, you may not say that in 6 months.
hey,
But okay, appreciate
You
you.
may stop asking and see.
You know, I'm from Vermont. I'm pretty tenacious.
I say go read those RSAs.
I read contracts for a living. The last thing I want to do in the evening is read RSAs.
That's the Bible.
Yeah.
Some of them are very interesting, to be honest with you,
Okay.
and others will, as I think Bert said, put you right to sleep.
Yeah. I don't doubt that. But anyway, yeah, we'd like to help. I'd like to help you with that. Would we be involved in any of the, what's the term for it, non-public meetings? Or are we only going to be in open public session?
All public,
Good.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Non-publics are only, again, the RSA says what we can use non-public for.
Just wanted to
And
make
nothing discussed in
Okay.
Budgeting would fall under that.
In
Now,
fact,
I'll
it's
do ask you a
illegal,
lot of
isn't it?
questions then.
Correct.
It's
Yes.
actually illegal to talk about it in a the budgets,
Got it.
with the exception of personnel.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, if we were, for example, to dive into the tax stuff, I think you would have to go into a private session for individual cases, but we
Right,
would need to be
We're
involved.
not.
Right, that's not what the rule of
This
the
is
FAC is.
the
Yes,
budget.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What we had asked, we'll be asking the department heads is to have their budgets ready by October 15th, I think was the date. Yeah, that's the first Tuesday. So I believe we had down for the first meeting, if you had agreed with it, was gonna be the following week. That way there you would have had
When they come with their budget, do they show deltas from this year versus last year, et cetera? Do they ever provide a whole thing, or do they just say, this is what I want?
No, what we asked them to do is the zero-based budgeting. In other words, don't just take last year's budget and mark it up.
Yeah.
Provide backup for, those things that'll,
No, but to
To show
his
the cost.
question, there is the difference. It's in the spreadsheet, the difference between last year's and what they're asking for this year, what they asked for last year.
But I like his answer better, which is a $0 budget,
Yeah.
which says, start from scratch each time. Don't assume you've got something in a kitty and you
Yeah.
can.
He can ask for that, but
most of them do. Most of them, the smart, like, when you come in with patriotic purposes or
Yeah.
some of these smaller budgets, that's what we had last year, that's what it cost us, so be it. I don't need the backup, but, if highway department comes in and has an equipment line item that's well, what is it you're looking for? Well, I've got these 3 quotes I wanna buy, whatever.
Right.
Then now show us that,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
Okay.
are we gonna get the
But the
big
other
book, the
thing
big book of budgets?
No, you're gonna get the book, you're gonna fill them in with the budget. But to answer the question is that the front sheet for each department is set up with the budget front, like for 2020, it will show you what the budget was in 18, what it was now in 19, and as of the date of that report, what they've spent. And then it'll show what they're proposing for the 2020 budget.
Now, how do we know what our revenue is?
How do we know what our
I
revenue
mean,
is?
you're getting your costs.
We
They're
know
gonna
what
come by
our
October.
revenue is. We do projections to the state. Matter of fact, just last week, we filed with the state our projected revenues.
So we just did an assessment.
No,
Well, we did. My assessment went up, so I
Yeah,
know we did one.
but that's
Nothing to do
taxes.
Well,
We're
that's
talking
what-
revenue.
That's what I refer to as revenue.
Oh, that's the minor, no, I shouldn't say the minor
Yeah.
part.
Is this being recorded?
Yes,
It is, it is.
You are on tape.
See, to us, there are taxes, and granted this the same, but you have taxes,
Yep.
then you have revenues, okay? For an example, motor vehicle registrations,
Okay.
okay? Those are revenues. Current use taxes, you know,
I have
those
some
are,
education I need.
those are
Okay.
revenues. So we look at where we are to date and make a projection of where we'll be at the end of the year.
Yeah, for example, the transfer station has a budget, but I think almost the past 2 years, we've come very close to break even between revenues and expenses for the transfer station.
Right, and as a single entity, that's great, but I was sort of looking at it as the overall
Right.
kitty and saying, okay, and clearly my understanding is wrong, or it needs to be clarified, is that when I look at revenue, I assume tax revenue is one of the biggest sources of
It is.
our revenue. And so I sort of look at that and I say, okay, so we've had these assessments, I've heard the mumblings
Yeah.
about the assessments. But then I heard that, well, there has to be a tax rate established. Now,
Mhm.
you have your assessments, and then you have to establish a rate. And I heard, and perhaps incorrectly, and again, this is more of my learning, that that's set in Concord.
Correct.
Okay. And so until we get that number from Concord, we don't know what our potential revenue, even notwithstanding delinquent payment.
But in order for Concord to calculate that rate, they have to know what our revenues are, and that's what we report to them.
Our revenues or our costs?
Our revenues. They know what our costs are on,
When you say our revenues, though,
Our revenue.
to me, it sounds like a recursive answer
okay,
because.
I'm gonna make it real simple for
Okay,
you, okay?
good.
We vote in March for a budget.
Yep,
They get that, so
Yeah.
they know what our
costs are,
costs are.
yeah.
They don't know how much money we bring in from building permits, from land use changes, motor vehicles. They don't know. That's why we need to report to them.
Sure, those.
So let me
those-
just
Got it,
go through this,
yep.
and I hope it'll all gel together for you. So we report that to them. They review that. They review our valuations of the property.
Yep,
They know what our costs are. They can get from the school department what the school budget is.
right,
They get the county and the state, okay?
yeah,
So they come back to us with a tax rate to say, in order to cover your costs with the revenue that you're bringing in, this is where your tax rate needs to be,
and that's mandated by Concord.
by Concord. The Board of Selectmen can adjust that tax rate only by using what we call fund balance, which is money that's accumulated from previous budgets that we have no way of spending except for adjusting that tax rate, voter approval, or a request as an emergency to the DRA. So
we're held-
taking those
we're
two
held-
out.
We're held hostage. by
We're not
the-
held hostage.
Well, Concord makes the decision.
No, they don't make the decision. They do the calculations for
Yeah.
us.
Okay, so they follow a very empirical approach,
Yes,
and it's
yeah.
not subjective.
correct,
Got it.
correct.
And then the piece that, and I had this conversation with some people the other day, and I tried to explain it. If you look at it, kind of think, so this hand is our budget, okay?
Yep.
That's state, school, county, town, everything, our
Yep.
budget, okay? So our budget is here. So like Representative Merlino said, you know, they're trying to stop the state budget from taking this huge jump. Our town budget normally stays right around 2 million, 2.5 million, and if the school doesn't go nuts, theirs stays similar as well.
Okay.
So our budget is
Similar.
here.
You meant 19 million.
Right. No, what I mean is it's going to say
Yeah,
not
yeah,
similar to
it's-
us.
It's consistent.
Yeah,
Consistent with
consistent.
them. Okay. So our budget is here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, our town or your assessed on your house was here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so everyone, you divide the property value into this, and you get how much per thousand you're paying in your tax rate.
Yep.
Okay? Now the budget doesn't move, but your house value goes up. Now we're not going to take that same, so your house value jumps by double. Well, if we could continue to collect that same dollar amount per
You'd be
house
rich.
value,
You'd be
right,
rich.
the town would have twice as much money. So obviously, the tax rate
No, I understand.
has to drop. But you understand it, and I'm glad you understand
Yeah,
it.
no, I get that.
Most people are freaking out thinking that they're going to pay this ridiculous amount
Well,
because their house went up
You know,
80,000.
And most people probably don't understand the whole process,
Right.
even I don't, but I understood that the rate was the variable,
Right.
and that makes sense.
Yeah. So I had this long conversation, and I had to
No, I
sit and explain, and a lot of people just, oh, well, my heart. And I'm like, relax. It's got to come back. The rate has to vary because, trust me, you're not going to get paid.
Still only spending $2.5 million.
Right, the
okay?
town's still only spending 2.5. If you want to give us 4.5 or 5,
Well,
awesome.
well, again,
But I don't think
they're
it's going to
really-
happen.
Got
Yeah.
Alright.
So,
it.
We gotta move along.
Yeah.
And I apologize.
Got an
No.
appointment at 7
It
o'clock
was
here,
very
so
helpful for me, thank you.
we'll send out a reminder for October
Now,
22nd.
as a point of note, I got a call from the town hall about this meeting, and then they told me they were gonna confirm it, because they hadn't gotten confirmation via email. I never got the email confirmation, I just happened to look at your agenda
Okay.
and saw we were on it, so I came. I just wanna make sure whomever I need to make sure they have
That's
my.
Joanne, why don't you leave her with your,
You did, I didn't get it.
2 or 3 times.
I didn't get any of those. Can I give you another email address?
Yeah, right, can you write it down?
Sure can, sure can.
Thank you.
Maybe that one just didn't. I just don't wanna miss it if I
Yeah.
can make it. Let the public record show I'm giving her my name.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
all right,
very much.
thank
Look
you,
forward to
nice
help.
meeting you.
and Mark, I'm your representative from the board.
Okay.
He volunteered.
I know. Figure it's probably the only way to keep the meetings brief.
Good job.
How many members are on the budget committee?
Bye.
We didn't even get a quorum.
Yeah, you did. You had 3 out of
I only
5.
saw 3 or 4 names.
There's 3.
Yeah.
No, 4 plus John is 5.
Yeah.
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 Good evening.
Good evening.
We wanted to talk about this PSNH appeal process. We received that letter from, yeah, Eversource. I said PSNH. Yeah.
It's just a little old.
Yeah, it's a little about budgeting for next year's
Yeah.
legal costs for them. And my understanding was that this was going to court in November. Is that correct yet, or did something happen that we haven't seen?
No, the letter says on item number 5, the trial is scheduled for 3 weeks in November.
So, as a town, if that is going to trial, would that not be, would the results of that not be the end of any litigation?
I don't think so. This is gonna go to the Supreme Court. The last one did.
Well, it also says that the final trial bill itself will not be issued until December, if everything stays on schedule, and will not be due and payable until calendar year 2020. Whatever that means,
But I believe
So we
he
can
is
tell
asking
them.
for us to budget,
Additional 6,000.
yeah. And it wasn't based on money spent in 2019.
They did.
What do you say?
They'll delay the payments. If towns don't have the money, they'll delay the payments till the ensuing fiscal year. I mean, if you're in a town
Yeah,
that.
but he's asking a valid question. If the trial is in November, why are we budgeting the following year an extra $6,000?
Well, if we could find the $6,000, we wouldn't be budgeting it.
Well, I think because they're estimating how much it's gonna cost
This
them
is-
to do all their legal research
Right.
and blah, 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 and all that. And they know how towns work with with the budget seasons and everything, so that's how I read it.
All right, what I'm missing here is that it goes to trial, and barring aside that you think that it gets appealed, but I'm thinking if it goes to trial in November, all of the research and expertise would have already been paid or be billed in 19.
Well, he's saying he may not bill us until 2020. He's trying to come up with a solution.
It just says to complete the case.
I think I understand what they're saying. What he's saying is because this was actually agreed upon and voted in post budget season,
Yeah.
post March. So we agreed to go to court after March, which meant the 2019 budgets for most towns were complete. They didn't budget for this court case. So what he's allowing the towns to do is to pay for the 2019 court case in 2020 with that additional $6,000.
Yeah,
So he said, but he did say in the letter that if you have additional money that you can put towards it, like if at the end of the year, there's an extra $6,000 somewhere, then
You
you
can
won't
pay
need
it
to budget
19,
it.
you won't have to budget it. Yeah.
All right, this is what I'm still missing here. If he's done, or the company has done work in 2019, as with all their other bills, they get submitted to the consortium and then divvied up, or however it goes, wouldn't we be seeing a bill?
You will in 19,
Yeah, we
but
will.
it's not payable till 20 is what he's saying.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
this
So
is to
it could
bill
be
an
more
additional.
than what they anticipated.
But see, if they're going to trial in November, I'm thinking all of his expertise has already been gathered in order to go to trial. Is
But
it
that
not?
all
It's
that-
just finishing up though, so
Right.
it ended up costing more
He
than
may be
they
going in the hole.
thought it was gonna cost.
You know, incidentally too, we talk about we're in with a group of people. Everybody in the group got the $6,000 letter. Okay?
Yes,
And
yeah.
they all got the 6,000. They, you know, you didn't get 6, somebody got 8, somebody got 2. Everybody got effectively the same letter. I know I got them.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think he's just reading it the same as that. I think what he's saying is budget yourself 6,000, which would cover you for anything for this case
Yeah,
that and any additional, because if it goes beyond, because he says it could go all the way through December. So I think he's just saying budget it and
Not necessarily that we'll use it,
Right.
but
Basically,
to
they're
have
doing
it
the work out
budgeted
front.
so that if we need to spend the money, it's there to spend, we're not having to
Okay.
beg, borrow, and.
So are we in a agreement that, although Jim, I think you're saying no, that what happens at this trial, you're saying if it's not in favor of the town, that we'd continue to appeal? Or towns, I should say.
I assume this is a Superior Court trial. What this is. Let me see. Well, I can, okay, why don't we look at the last one? And why don't we just look at what's at stake? I think we need to know what's at stake. Why would I spend $6,000 to save 4? No. What's at stake here is $187,986,
Is what?
Revenue.
That's how
and
much
taxes.
revenue, tax revenue is at stake on this appeal
per year
per year.
for New Ipswich or for everybody?
No, just for the small hamlet of New Ipswich,
Okay.
okay?
And can you educate us on how that, where that number comes from?
Yes,
Thank you.
okay. There's, without getting too far into this.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, and I may have my years off a little bit, but it's like tax years 11, 12, and 13, and 14, or somewhere in there. We went through this whole scenario. And it was settled at, what, 2 years ago or something like that. And the towns won. It went before the BTLA, and then from the BTLA, it went to the Supreme Court. The state of New Hampshire Department of Revenue stepped in as an intervener against the towns, which was interesting, because this is where the numbers come from. Public service gives value information to the DRA. The DRA determines what town it's in and passes it out. If a town or city takes that number, I don't want to say they're guaranteed they'll never have an abatement, but I don't think anybody ever has. So how does that work? It's the cost to acquire the asset less depreciation. Best illustration I can think of is I got a motorcycle valued at $9,000. I pay $2 or $3 to register the thing here with the town. Okay, because it's a 58. It's been depreciated. We don't assess that way. So what happens is the state says, if we accept, and this is 2018, okay, if we accept $6,149,007, then that's fine. We say it's $12,862,800.
That's the value of their assets in town?
That's what we've had on it.
You're at
So
12,
we got
they're at
well over
6.
$6 million
Okay.
of assessed value at stake here, and we've won it the first time around. I'm not really happy about having to spend more money. I think Eversource has played a game with us. They just keep, you know, they can have one law firm, several lawyers, and just keep firing away, okay?
Mhm.
And so I think that, you know, I have to have some faith that the company we hired is being honest with us, and I think they are.
And also, Dave, I think if you read that second paragraph really well, you'll see that they're saying, well, down at the bottom, I'll just read, it says, this additional methodology and new work scope have significantly increased our time and costs to prepare the court-ready appraisal. So, if you read that paragraph really well, it kind of explains why they're adding another $6,000 to it.
They're basically doing the work in 2019 and gonna bill us for it in 2020, just because they know that's
They're
what
doing
town's
additional
budget.
work because of the,
See,
Right.
some of the towns,
DRA.
some of the towns in this group are alternate fiscal year towns, and they don't have the luxury of this. They gotta go look for the money, because their fiscal year didn't start until July 1.
right.
Jim, but to go back to that number you had thrown out there of the 187,000, are you saying that that's the value of the tax assessment above the 6 million
Yes,
value?
Okay.
Okay.
all right, plug this in, okay?
I have no formula here, so I'm just trying to understand it.
Okay, take our 12,
Yep.
subtract from it 6 million, okay? And then take our tax rate. Now, I'm probably a little bit off because they don't pay the school tax, and I just took the town tax. So I should have taken the town tax minus the school tax. So in reality, maybe it's closer to $1.50, 150, 160, okay? Whatever it is, it's a big number. Because I'd have to take the state education out of there, because they pay that separately.
Do we know how much we've paid them so far? To date?
Yes. Between them and,
M&M.
no, Donahue,
DTC.
Tucker, yeah,
Yeah.
is close to 50,000.
this year,
No,
No.
total.
Cumulative.
No, that wouldn't over the years.
yeah,
But when you look at what's at stake,
right, and that's why I said I
No,
need
no,
to have
that's
this
good.
discussion, because
Yep.
at what point is the risk reward
yeah,
worth pursuing?
yeah. But the next time we meet, we'd like to invite you to our meeting.
Sure, so what do we do, walk outside?
Where there's no
And then
room.
you know what it's like to be cramped. I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
Does this
So
have
do
to
you
do with this as
understand
well?
it
Is this
at this
thing we have to
point?
sign, otherwise we
This
lose our
is something
opportunity?
different, this is different, right? This is, that second letter that we got. The other letter that,
DTC.
We don't have-
yeah, DTC sent, which was to pay them as part of this consortium
Yeah,
to do that process that we spoke about probably 2 months ago for the town setting the,
Right away
the
ordinance.
right-of-way ordinance. And I'm like, well, why would we go and pay you when you gave us all the information of what we're supposed to be doing?
I think it's two different things.
I don't understand that. I haven't seen,
I'm familiar with that
read
letter. We haven't gotten the letter as a board here yet.
Did we get a letter from DTC? We haven't seen that letter, Dave.
Well, I'm saying, it,
And actually, it wouldn't come to us.
right, it's to the town for the comprehensive public right-of-way ordinance.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
in my mind, they came in, told us what we needed to do, gave us the outline, gave us the forms, and then,
I have,
This-
I have a call into them.
okay,
I got the same question.
exactly,
I got a stack of things that says, you do this, this, and
Yeah.
this, and now we're gonna write an ordinance. It could very well be that when you do those things, you haven't really created an ordinance. This is something different, and I wanna find out what the difference is. Because when you went through that procedure, you were modifying the poll licenses, but you didn't create an ordinance, and I don't know what they mean by ordinance.
no, I think it set up an ordinance, because I remember
What's that?
the
Yeah.
first step was getting someone to petition us with that.
Yeah,
And then, you hold your public hearings and whatnot. And my understanding from when they were here, by doing this, what it does is it allows the town to capture potential revenue from other users of the lines, whether it's cable, whether it's another company using it for telephone, whatever. Was my understanding the way they explained it. Because I said, well, why do we need it? PSNH, Eversource is already here. Well, there were others on there that you're
Oh, yeah.
not collecting it from.
that's correct.
So that's why I thought,
I don't know the answer to the question.
yeah,
But I'm familiar with that letter,
okay,
and I'm familiar with the other, because I think we brought the other in here.
you did,
Okay.
yeah.
And now I just saw that last week, and I'm saying to myself, what is this?
Am I the only one that seems like it's the one and the same?
No, we don't know, we're gonna find out.
Okay,
But we as this board didn't get that letter.
Right.
well, it's all public if you wanna read it.
I mean, I don't know what, I don't know what they're coming up with. They're coming up with something that's more bulletproof, I have no
No,
idea.
I think it's more revenue generating. I hate to be cynical, but,
Well, it probably is.
uh,
That's what it sounds like.
But I do think we should get together at our first meeting in October. The first Tuesday in October. And to look at that, go over what that resulted at are. And I think we should discuss consolidated Fairpoint abatement. There's a whole nother animal. That's in court, right? That's at the Supreme Court right now. Everybody was so happy with it that both sides both sides appealed it to the Supreme Court. In other words, it looked like they were.
That one's not behind us already?
Huh?
That one wasn't behind us? I thought that one already
No,
got
no,
resolved.
Fairpoint's, they've had the trial. Nobody liked the outcome of the trial, so everybody appealed it.
Okay.
So we need to find out where that is.
My only question
And that
on
var-
this
that-
one,
And that varies from town to town. In the case of some towns, they're only talking a few $100s a year difference. Why would you spend a lot of money? Other towns, it was bigger. I think it was bigger in town like this one, but we need to look at that before tax rate setting and all that, looking at, because you guys do overlay too,
yeah. My only question to DTC, and I didn't know if that's why they sent that letter, was to prompt us to get that ordinance in place prior to the court case.
That was my understanding when we got that one letter, that if we didn't do anything,
I will.
then we're stuck with whatever they give
I'll
us.
let
Yeah.
everybody know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was understanding, that if we didn't come up with our own ordinance, we're stuck with whatever they give us. Where if we come up with our own now, we have a leg to stand on to fight back. So,
The other thing too is the state legislature's been playing around with telephones.
Do you know where the state legislator ever ended up? I thought they were in the last sessions, and it must have not been approved, but come up with a bill to determine the assessment on the utilities.
They were working on telephones. And when I was a state rep, that was a hot topic too. We weren't taxing certain aspects of, at the time, Fairpoint, okay? Because they had a different tax. The argument was there was a tax they paid directly to the state. And they had an exemption on paying certain types of property tax for a certain amount of time. The exemption lapsed, and the legislature wouldn't renew it. And so then we got into taxing their poles and conduits and.
But in this last legislative session, there was a bill that would have determined how the assessments were
It was a
going to.
methodology.
Yeah, methodology, thank you.
Yes.
Did it just die? Or whatever
No,
happened?
I don't think it died. We'll have to find out where it is.
Okay,
But it wouldn't affect something, because you can't pass a law to affect something in the past.
no, I was thinking that it was gonna trump the court case. Well,
It can't, the court case is for what's in the past. The court case
it won't have how it will be in the future?
The court case could affect how something goes in the future, depending on precedent that's set by the court. But it's gonna do it in the scope of existing law. If there's a new law passed for a new methodology, that's going forward. And so the court case could still sit there and churn, and then you go forward with some sanity. But
Okay,
the 900-pound gorilla is, for us, is the Eversource.
One thing
It's
that's,
been expensive over the
one thing that struck me is, you mentioned that you think this is go to the Supreme Court. And when we're talking this much money, somebody's bound to be unhappy on a settlement or on a decision by the courts. Maybe we should be budgeting significantly more than $6,000, like $10,000 or $12,000.
right, because, well, we have to, during the budgeting session, is line everything up. Because we didn't budget this.
I'm saying I think we should be proactive.
Oh, we do. When we get to that budgeting session, okay, what do we have to budget for? And at last year's budget, this wasn't,
Right.
But I'm suggesting that we're hearing something about a future cost that we don't anticipate either. But now we should anticipate it.
But when we're into the budget season, hopefully we'll already have the answer to that, because I'm assuming this court thing's not gonna take a month and a half.
I can't see it not going further, honestly.
If you really wanna read something interesting, read the court decision from the first round of this. I don't know if you have it here, the BTLA decision and the Supreme Court decision. If you can't get them, I can get them for you. But, I mean, it was quite a blast. I mean, the towns came out of it very well. Why we're back doing it again, I have no idea. Other than the fact that
Because they can.
they can.
Exactly.
And they can wear some
Yeah.
down. In some towns, it isn't that great a difference. You know.
So you somewhat have your answer, right?
We gotta
No, no, no.
have this dialogue to understand where we're
Absolutely.
going with the town.
Absolutely.
That's
I
all.
totally agree.
You know,
Yep.
when
Yep.
you get documentation from the different entities, and then you're dealing with not only Eversource and Fairpoint and whatnot, I thought it would be good if we got together, talked about
No,
it,
it's good. It is good.
you know.
Yeah.
So you're thinking we should meet again in October?
I think we should meet first meeting.
Yeah.
It's up to,
Yeah. No, definitely.
and hopefully what we'll do is we'll bring some statistical numbers of what's going on with Fairpoint. Okay, that's the one that sort of just sits there on the side simmering, and, you know, after a while, you sort of forget about it. It just sits there. Everything else keeps turning along, and, you know, you're looking at, you know, the housing market and how it's going up here, and, I mean, I'm sure everybody got a letter that owns a house, got a letter in the mail that said your house might be worth a few pesos more than it was 5 years ago. In some cases, it's gonna be, wow, is that really true?
But where is Fairpoint? Are both sides in appeals? Is a court date been set?
My understanding is, and I gotta look into it a little further, is that nobody was happy with the outcome of Superior Court. So both sides have appeals before the Supreme Court. Okay. And a couple of towns have decided they're not gonna mess with it, and they've negotiated settlements on the side. I'm aware of some of those. But in some cases, you know, in the last couple of years for some of them, the only difference was $300, $400, $500, $600 a year. Why would we go to war over this?
Yeah.
Okay? And so we need to take a look at that too, because aside from these two, we don't have any major abatement problems.
Well, we haven't yet.
No, we're not gonna. We'll have some, okay. The biggest one we got is a utensil. You're familiar with that, right?
Yes, I am.
That's still out there.
Enough.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that one's ended.
Well, it ended, but then there was an appeal made, and the appeal never got answered, or something like that. It was-
He had so many days to appeal.
Wasn't that
The
earlier?
last one,
That wasn't over here.
but it's very short.
Okay.
30
It's in the bottom of some court's file drawer, next to the shredder.
There's a few that's been costing the town undeservingly too much
And
money.
that was an absolute absurdity, but you had to do something with it, but it's, hey, you don't make money on speeding tickets either.
We don't make anything on a speeding ticket,
I know that,
except for the one officer that we just sent to the academy. So, very good, then, we'll see you on October
Can
1st.
I ask you an unrelated question?
Sure.
Has anybody in Greenville contacted you about the smell over there?
Nope.
I'm amazed. Because the house is in New Ipswich,
Oh, from the burnt one?
the burnt house.
Isn't there some kind of a law where they have to take it down, demolish it at some point?
Can you find that for me?
No, there isn't.
Honestly, I thought there was. There isn't, huh?
I don't think there is, but towns have responsibility for public safety.
and liability is what our concerns are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're looking into options. But no, nobody has complained.
And the point is, there's no good option. Other than the fact that if it was just grass there and no hazardous material, life would be better. Okay. Well, I think people would support that.
Budget season's coming up.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you
All right,
very
thank
much
you.
for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Now that I like one. I'm getting old.
No.
Actually, I got old. Past tense.
Is there a way you can set that reminder date so we don't forget about it? Or I don't forget about it, I'm writing it down, but. There you go.
Motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A3, Section 2B, hiring of any person as a public employee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.